Tonight here, the stunning new legal twist as a witness admits he lied on the stand in a grisly kidnapping case.
For the first time tonight, you're going to see a startling tape. Could it free a man who's now behind bars? 2020 begins right now.
Somebody has my daughter. They have kidnapped her. Please get everybody in the community out there.
Everybody trying to say, it's okay, Karen, this is all just a mistake. But see, they didn't know what I knew that morning.
Nursing student Holly Bobo.
Last seen being dragged away from her home by a man in camouflage.
She said, stop, 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 leave me alone, stop. But she never called out his name.
Just hours after Holly Bobo disappeared, more than 400 people turned up here to search these woods.
No, Holly, I love.
This is the Tennessee River. On its western bank is Decatur County, a patchwork of sparsely populated farms, dense woods, and neighbors who look out for each other.
It's a rural county with a cute little small town, Parsons. Very close to the Tennessee River.
A lot of cattle farming and crop farming.
Hunting, fishing, boating.
People that like to live out in the country, they have some animals or some horses.
There's not a lot of industry in Decatur County.
I started to say it might be compared to Mayberry, but it's nothing like that. We do have crime just like every other town in America, but we are rural. Everybody pretty much knows everybody. Everybody knew Holly and her family.
20-year-old Holly Bobo came from a loving family. She lived with her mother, Karen, father, Dana, and her older brother, 25-year-old Clint, in a home her dad built with his own hands.
It was your typical little single story, 3 bedrooms, kitchen was in the middle kind of, and then a little small living room. And they had a carport there, which is a 2-car carport to the back of the house.
They're typical middle-class, hard-working country folks. Holly's dad, he had an excavating business, and her mother was a school teacher.
Holly and I were very close, and we were about 5 years apart.
Holly was raised like my little sister, and Clint was like my little brother. We were always growing up together.
We just lived in our own world, 2 kids in college. We had our church family, our family gatherings, went to the movies together, rode 4-wheelers together, rode horses.
The Bobo kids grew up with a sense of caring for their community. Clint is studying to become a social worker, and Holly is attending nursing school.
They're the best people on earth. That's what hurt so bad, that this happened to them. They didn't do anything that would have put them in harm's way of having this to happen. It just doesn't happen to people like them.
It was just a normal morning like anything else. Dana gets up first and gets ready.
Well, I usually go out and feed the dog.
Dana says Holly is already up, studying for a big test later that day.
I asked her if she needed any money, I think, for gas or whatever that day. She said, yeah, and I left her some money on the bar. I left out my regular time, 5:30 or something like that, and went on to work.
Karen wakes up a short time later.
So I went on about my business, getting ready.
Thousands of people will come to this small town, all asking the same question. Where is Holly Bobo? A quiet spring morning in the country interrupted by a scream. Then, a deafening silence. 20-year-old Holly Bobo vanished from her own backyard, and her family is in anguish.
Holly was an absolute joy from the day she was born. It just seemed like there was something special about her. She was always kind to people and appreciated the small things in life.
Holly's mother says she shares a special bond with her only daughter.
We could finish each other's sentences. We enjoyed doing the same things, riding horses, listening to the radio.
Holly's cousin, country singer Whitney Duncan, says music has always been a passion for Holly.
We had singing in common for sure, and she had a beautiful voice. Peace in the Valley was her favorite gospel song. I have that clip and go back and watch it.
Following graduation from high school, Holly has her eye on the future, studying hard to become a nurse.
Holly and I ended up in the same nursing class in Parsons, and so I really got to know her. She was very committed to the program. You could just tell. She studied continuously. On the day that she went missing, we got to class, and we're supposed to take a test the first thing. The instructor went out and came back, and she announced that something terrible had happened. And so we immediately dispersed, went to the area, started searching.
When tragedy strikes, Decatur County comes together. On April 13, 2011, just hours after Holly Bobo disappeared, more than 400 people turned up here to search these woods, trying to help find any clue as to what happened to the 20-year-old nursing student.
Comments everywhere that normal people would not make.
And in the early days of the investigation, Holly's mother, Karen, thought these guys could know something, given what they had been heard saying around town. So she tracked them down herself.
I asked them, did they know anything about our daughter's abduction? Of course, they all denied it.
She was kind of doing her own investigation. I mean, she came here and asked to talk to Shane.
I guess I would have fought Goliath. You know, I just had no fear. I was trying to find my daughter.
And at the time of Holly's abduction, witnesses tell investigators that before she went missing, Shane Austin crossed paths with her at a local raccoon hunting festival.
The story was that Shane had seen Holly Bobo at the coon hunt, and that he'd kind of followed her around like a stalker.
Did you hear anything about that?
I guess we heard that rumor. We heard that he was trying to take a picture of her and pretending like he was talking on the phone. But now Shane only had a flip phone, so I don't think you could hold that flip phone up to your head and take a picture of somebody, but that's what we heard.
Investigators followed up on this story. Within a week of Holly's disappearance, they showed up at the Austins' property wanting to speak with Shane.
They come and brought the dogs and come down and search Shane's trailer, and that was the start of it.
Throughout their investigation, authorities say they never found evidence at the Austins' property that connected him to Holly Bobo.
Were you surprised that they were down there?
Yes. I mean, I know Shane had drug issues, and that's what I told the TBI guy when he come to the gate down there. I said, hey, if she'd been made of morphine, I'd said you come to the right place, but no way.
And then, 2 years later, with those new agents on the case, authorities zeroed back in on the Adams brothers, Jason Autry and Shane Austin.
At what point did you realize that he might be in trouble with all of this?
When they come back at 6 o'clock in the morning and tooting the horn, so we went down and opened the gate and let them in, and they said, we're down here to get this over with, so we want Shane.
That's when they wanted to know where the body was at. The TBI met with Shane and they got that immunity deal.
Investigators offered Shane immunity to cooperate and tell them what he knew about his friend's involvement in Holly Bobo's abduction.
You take an immunity deal, hey, you've done something. You've done something. But the lawyer said, if you don't do it, they're going to arrest him. they've done told me they're going to arrest him. And he said, it's going to cost thousands of dollars. So us three, we talked and we agreed. And
we talked hard.
We talked hard.
We talked hard. If you got any part of this, you better be telling it.
Shane Austin had nothing at all to do with this.
So Shane Austin takes the deal, but when he sits down with investigators, they're disappointed.
They was very unhappy because he didn't know where the body was at.
According to authorities, all he can tell them is that he too has heard Zach Adams make incriminating comments about what happened to Holly.
There was talk that Zach had blurted out, I'm gonna do you like I did to Holly.
But Shane also said that he didn't believe that Zach was telling the truth. He thought that Zach was just boasting.
But investigators believe Shane knows more than he's telling, and they revoke that immunity deal.
I was scared for my son. If the TBI wasn't here, they was calling him, harassing him. So we didn't have any peace.
I don't know if it was them calling him or whatever, but anyway, his drug use just escalated, and that's from that. So, and Christmas was the last time we seen him.
Shane's parents say his life continued to spiral, and in 2015, he died by suicide.
Shane opened that door to addiction. They just grabbed him and pulled him in, and this time it pulled him in for real. Wasn't gonna let him go.
Authorities have lost one cooperating witness, but they're about to get a new one.
That's true. You ain't gonna be scared of nobody now. Ain't no reason to be scared of nobody.
Could what he has to say finally explain what happened to Holly Bobo? More than 2 years after Holly Bobo disappeared, investigators are still searching for answers. Rumors about 4 local small-time criminals, Zach Adams, his brother Dylan Adams, Jason Autry, and Shane Austin, have failed to lead to any hard evidence. But in 2014, investigators catch a break when Dylan Adams is arrested on unrelated gun charges. The Decatur County Sheriff's Office receives a shocking phone call. The caller is Dennis Benjamin, telling them that Dylan Adams, still in his custody, has just confessed to taking part in the kidnapping and murder of Holly Bobo.
You'll have your seat right there if you don't mind.
Dylan Adams is brought in to speak with TBI agents, and through halting one-word answers, he tells them that he, Zach Adams, Jason Autry, and Shane Austin committed the crime together.
You came forward to Dennis and told him some things that are above and beyond what you've ever told me or Brent about this case, right? Yes, sir. Okay. Describe what was she doing? What did she look like? What was she wearing?
She had long pants on, pink shirt, same that. Remember that?
Okay.
Dylan says that all 4 men sexually assaulted Holly at Zach's house.
And now you're saying that Shane Austin is sitting there. You're sitting there. Jason Autry is sitting there. And Zach. Is there anybody else involved? Was Holly Bobo kidnapped? Was she raped? Raped by you?
I just see someone being bullied into saying something they didn't do. I think that he was just trying to get through it.
You withheld information. That ain't how this works.
He was in a federal holding facility for almost 2 years. The TBI agents there pounded him, and he never, ever once said, I raped Holly. And then he's moved to this Dennis Benjamin's house, and suddenly he's raped Holly.
We attempted to contact Dennis Benjamin, but we were unable to reach him.
She was shot in the back of the head. How did that happen? How much blood was on the floor? What was ever done to clean that up?
Well, I know just the grass. Off the hand, I don't know.
Armed with Dylan's confession and a search warrant, investigators go to Zach Adams' house looking for any physical evidence to corroborate his story.
They come to the door there and asked me, said, you want to unlock it or you want us to tear the door down? And they knocked a hole in it to see what was back there, I reckon. Tore the fan down as they was tearing the floor out. They used my pick and things to tear this out with, but they cut it out with a saw.
And the story, he was raping her and attacking her in the house. Well, they pulled up floorboards, they DNA tested all the couch and the bed and everything, never found it, nothing.
We reached out to the TBI and they declined to answer specific questions about this case.
In my heart of hearts, I know my boys, they're drug addicts. They're not murderers.
But despite a lack of evidence, authorities believe that's exactly what they are. Zach Adams, Jason Autry, and Dylan Adams are eventually all indicted for murder.
Decatur County Grand Jury handed down indictment of especially aggravated kidnapping and first-degree felony murder.
With all three heading to trial, the state announces that it will seek the death penalty, and Jason Autry proclaims his innocence.
He took her, he raped her, killed her, he covered it up, he bragged about it, and he almost got away with it, but he didn't, because we're here now.
He did not murder Holly Lynn Bobo. He did not kidnap Holly Lynn Bobo. He did not abduct Holly Lynn Bobo. He did not rape Holly. And do you remember?
Karen Bobo knew the man, now accused of killing her daughter when he was just a boy.
Did you know Zach Adams?
I had Zach in the 4th grade. I was his 4th grade school teacher.
The very first day, you have Holly's mother basically fall out on the stand during her testimony.
Take just a minute, I'm feeling sick.
Let's take the witness. I want everyone to remain with me while the jury files out, please. Oh, got a nurse.
Holly's father also testifies.
What day did you give up hope for the very first time?
And about 3 years into it, give or take, the TBI come to our house, told us that was Holly. Holly had been found. That was her remains.
I'm going to ask you to look at this picture. You recognize it?
Prosecutors produced the alleged murder weapon. It's a .32 caliber revolver witnesses claim was owned by Zach Adams' friend, Shane Austin, and it was recovered in a drainage ditch just months before the trial.
We located a metal object that was later identified as a revolver.
A parade of no fewer than 9 witnesses testify that over the years, Adams, often while on drugs or in jail, made incriminating statements.
The prosecution and defense each call a cell phone expert. Both agree Adams and the other suspects' phones did not hit cell towers near the Bobo home at the time Holly was taken.
At the time of this abduction, do we have any idea where Zach Adams' phone is, where Shane Austin's phone is, where Dylan's Adams' phone is, or where Jason Autry's phone is?
No.
The prosecution expert says it's possible Holly and Zach Adams' phones were in the same general locations later that morning, but the defense expert disagrees.
In very general terms, the devices were not together at the same location at the same time during that morning.
Did you kill Holly Bobo?
Absolutely not.
Why do you think you guys became suspects in this case?
We didn't have a hard alibi, and we was local, drug users and stuff, and would it matter putting us away? I felt like they had to arrest somebody, even if it was the wrong person, which it was.
As the trial continues, astonishing testimony. A witness you might think would be the last person to believe Adams is innocent.
I looked at Zach personally a total of 2 or 3 times. Whenever the last one was over with, I stopped looking at them.
And a stunning courtroom appearance. That former suspect with a theory of what Holly's killer was thinking.
You gotta hide it, and if you kill it, what you gonna do with it?
Terry Britt, the man investigators say they cleared, is about to take the stand.
All right, we're ready to continue. Defense ready to proceed? Yes, state ready to proceed?
Yes, sir.
All right, call your next.
Terry Dykes.
In the same fashion, shut the tailgate. We driving just erratic. Panic, just pretty much.
To hear him telling that story.
Anger. What I felt anger. Sadness, because I thought he was my friend. Why would he lie on me?
The Bobo family told us in 2017 they believe Zach Adams is responsible for their daughter's murder and that Jason Autry's testimony rang true to them.
It did, and it matched what the prosecutors had also.
My cross-examination of Autry was everything. I mean, it was really important.
The defense attorney points out at the time Autry says the murder happened, he was on phone calls with his girlfriend and also his mother.
In the middle of all this, you were able to take a telephone call from your mother, Shirley King, that morning at 9:42, weren't you?
If your records reflect that, that's true.
Autry also mentions a burn barrel at Shane Austin's house.
55-gallon barrel with all the paint off of it, with flames shooting out the top of it, 3 to 4 foot high.
Shane's mother says there was no burn barrel.
Shane didn't have a burn barrel at his trailer.
Shane's mother also says Jason Autry was wrong about a fence at Shane's trailer.
The gate was open.
No, the driveway did not have a gate at that time. We did put a gate and a fence up, and it was June of 2011 after we bought Shane a puppy.
The prosecution basically adopted Jason Autry's story of what happened, but they left huge gaps in their prosecution, and they don't explain who it was that came and abducted Holly. They don't explain how her body got at that cell tower.
Prosecutors argued at trial that Shane Austin could have been the one who took Holly.
Jason Autry is the best evidence that these prosecutors have in this case because they have very little physical evidence. They're banking on the jury completely, wholeheartedly buying his account.
Inside this courthouse, the jury is about to deliver a verdict. It could be a life or death decision for Zach Adams. Either way, it won't be the end of it. Years later, a new investigation, another courtroom battle, and prison interviews. What Zach Adams and Jason Autry say now.
I have no reason to lie.
Yeah.
So people are skeptical. What do you say to those people?
He said the person was what, 5'9", 200 pounds? It wasn't Jason Autry. He's 6'6". Could have been me. I was 6'3", 125 pounds. My brother's 6'2", 125 pounds. The person that abducted her wasn't one of us. I mean, he didn't match the description of any of us.
A flurry of legal filings beginning January 2024 lay out why Zach Adams says he deserves a new trial and why prosecutors say he does not.
April 2024, a hearing at the Hardin County Courthouse.
The court's going to order that the temporary order placing these exhibits under seal is to remain in effect.
Adams' new attorney is there and some familiar faces, trial prosecutor Jennifer Nichols and the Bobos. Zach Adams is searching for new evidence, new witnesses. He's being helped by Katie Spurko. She's a neuropsychologist and she's been re-examining the case against him.
How did you end up involved in this case?
The attorney who's representing Zach Adams, Doug Bates, is an attorney I've worked with before.
What was he looking for you to do?
He wanted me to review the case file, watch the testimony, and see if there were things that stood out to me in terms of whether someone was being honest or not.
Spurko says she is now working for Zach Adams' mother instead of his attorney.
As psychologists, we are trained on how to interview people to elicit accurate information.
Spurko provided 2020 with interviews she recorded during her investigation.
I want to know everything about you. I want to be able to look into your soul and know every single thing about you. I wanted to get a sense for what he was like, because he didn't testify. And remember, the first thing he asked me was if I thought he was innocent. And I said I didn't know yet.
Do you now think he's innocent?
I am so confident he's innocent.
Hi, my name's Katie, and I'm so sorry to come here unannounced. I had your address and I didn't have your phone number.
Spurko looked for more information about former suspect Terry Britt, who was later cleared by the TBI. She went to see his wife, Janet, who still stands by her husband.
There was some evidence that came up with Terry regarding the Holly Bobo situation.
I don't see how, because he didn't have nothing to do with it. There's no way he could have went and kidnapped her. He was here with me. Just because he has a record, that doesn't mean he had anything to do with it.
Some of Katie Spurko's investigating has provoked a reaction from the prosecutor. In a court filing that includes an affidavit from Janet Britt, the prosecutor accuses Spurko of trying to intimidate Britt and of offering to show her confidential discovery files.
Spurko denies she tried to intimidate Britt and says the only files she offered to share were public records of Terry Britt's criminal history. Zach Adams' court filings also say Spurko found a witness who claims she saw Terry Britt behaving oddly the morning Holly was taken.
She said he was in a smaller truck and was kind of leaning over, had made eye contact with her and was leaning over, adjusting his body to block her view of his passenger seat.
Prosecutors say Adams's attorney and Spurko have not gotten a sworn statement from that witness, which they say the law requires before it can be considered.
Still ahead, the effort to free Zach Adams brings Katie Spurko face to face with the person who helped send him to prison.
He said, somebody's got to pay Jason. He said that he's going to be you. Hell no, I ain't paying.
Forensic neuropsychologist Katie Spurko, now working for Zach Adams' family, has spent nearly a year studying his case file, watching the trial testimony, tracking down and interviewing witnesses. But the person she most wanted to talk to was the man many say sealed Adams' fate, Jason Autry.
Mr. Autry.
When you went to see Jason, what were you hoping was going to come from that conversation?
I was just super curious what he would be like, if he would talk to me, what he would have to say. Can we just start at the very beginning of when he first started getting questioned related to the Bobo case? I asked him, what did you do that day? And he gave me what seemed like a really honest answer.
No, I couldn't tell you what I done that day.
Yeah.
Katie Spurko provided ABC News with this video, and it's the first time it's being seen publicly.
I want to know your whole experience. How did it get from you being arrested for this to you being on the stand and telling this crazy story?
So a lot of this in the beginning was just all routine questions.
Autry says that when he told his attorney that he intended to fight the charges and go to trial, he got an answer he wasn't expecting.
He said, I got you about a 95% chance. You spend the rest of your time right over. You know, what do they want? You know, I need to know what they want. What do they want from me?
Yeah.
I want you to testify. Straight up about it.
What does he tell you?
Tells me he made the whole thing up. Took the phone records and the case file and put together what he did that day to craft a story that fits in with the evidence that exists and cannot be changed.
I said, well, what if I say all I seen was just a body, you know, laying in the back of the truck? It's not enough to get you out.
Why would someone admit to killing someone if they didn't do it?
He's sitting in jail for years. He's being told that Zach's gonna be telling a story against him, and basically it's this or the death penalty. And so under that amount of pressure, I think a lot of people would have folded the way he did.
And he said, I need you to help me bury this body. And he said, that's Holly Bobo.
You're an engaging witness.
Well, I was trained.
I could tell you were trained. I'm on the witness stand a lot,
yeah.
you know. I was a trained witness.
Yeah.
Who was doing the training?
Jennifer Nichols.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was the boss of it all.
Zach Adams' defense team made this claim in their legal filing, and we reached out to Jennifer Nichols about it. She denied the allegation, telling us that it is a false statement. The only guidance ever given to Jason Autry was to tell the truth. There was no training.
That's the worst I've ever felt in my life, coming back, knowing that you just lied and put an innocent man in prison.
Now he has no benefit to be gained other than morally to address the remorse. This isn't helping him whatsoever. He's facing sentencing on federal gun charges.
But it's important to remember that one way or another, Jason Autry is an admitted liar. And prosecutors argue that Autry's recantation should not get Zach Adams a new trial, saying Mr. Autry's credibility was thoroughly impeached during cross-examination at trial and that the jury was aware of inconsistencies in his testimony. They also contend that Autry's testimony was vetted and corroborated.
What do you think of the fact that Jason recanted his confession?
I'm glad. I'm glad he's telling the truth. It's about time. I wish he would have never lied in the first place.
So what does this mean for Zach Adams? Is there a chance Jason Autry's new story could set him free?
A request for a new trial for a man convicted in the 2011 murder of a Holly Bobo.
Well, I mean, so I'm in here for something I didn't do, so I'm hopeful.
This case is a tragedy. There was never a day in that courtroom that I didn't feel for Karen.
No remorse for anything that you have done.
At sentencing, Holly Bobo's mother, there was that very dramatic moment where she wanted to speak to you and look you face to face, eye to eye.
Well, she felt like she was talking to the person that took her daughter's life, but she don't realize that I'm not that person. They're the real victims of all this, but they didn't know that we didn't have anything to do with it. And if I knew anything, I would have helped any way I could have.
Before this happened to Holly, we lived in what we thought was one of the safest communities. The day that Holly was abducted, not only was something taken from us, it was taken from our whole county, community, and the surrounding counties.
The goal was to get justice for Holly, and I feel like that happened. And obviously it didn't bring her back. There will still be sad, but there is a little peace in knowing that the people that did this to her will be in jail.
But now there are questions about whether one of those people, Zach Adams, will remain behind bars.
A request for a new trial for a man convicted in the 2011 murder of a Holly Bobo.
Zach Adams' team will now need to convince a judge that Jason Autry's new story amounts to new evidence that would have changed the jury's verdict.
Jason Autry recanted his testimony, and that would give Adams an alibi for Bobo's murder.
We reached out to Jennifer Nichols, the prosecutor in this case. She declined our request for an interview, but sent us a statement that says in part, "At trial, we presented proof through 62 witnesses and 250 exhibits. The jurors heard testimony of Zachary Adams' confessions to multiple and unrelated individuals. Today, nearly 8 years after the verdicts, I remain confident in the jury's verdicts of Zachary Adams' guilt."
We understood, when the trial and sentence and everything took place,
that there'd be a number of events down through the years. We're going to be patient because we still are seeking justice for our beloved Holly.
Holly was always about helping someone. Whatever Holly did, she put forth her best effort. And it was just in her soul to be that kind, loving, nurturing person.
It's been more than 13 years since Holly's passing, and her legacy still remains. A stretch of Tennessee highway has been dedicated in her honor, and Holly's cousin, country singer Whitney Duncan, recorded a song to honor Holly.
I wanted to convey a message of she's not hurting anymore. You know, she is in a better place. But I know she's watching down and she sees everything, and she is happy.
After Holly's death, the Bobo family established a scholarship in her name for other nursing students.
As for Zach Adams, a hearing is scheduled next month when a judge is going to consider some of his legal filings. That's our program for tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Deborah Roberts.
And I'm David Muir. From all of us here at 2020 and ABC News, good night.
An all-new 2020 starts right now.
I said he's right there. His eyes were shut and he had spots of blood in different areas on his face.
She's accused of killing her boyfriend, a Boston police officer.
Enough's enough. We've been quiet for too long.
Now, Justin, a verdict for Karen Reed.
The defendants are guilty or not guilty? Not guilty.
This is the case the whole country couldn't stop watching. I hit him.
I hit him. I hit him. I said it with a question mark.
It's like that my cousin Vinny moment. I shot the clerk versus I shot the clerk.
You'll see that this case carries him cancer. His name is Michael Proctor.
And all new. And you're the first person from inside the investigation to speak out. The exclusive interview with the controversial trooper in the bullseye.
That's tough. I'm sorry.
One of the texts that you sent about Karen Reed is that you said hopefully she kills herself, telling his version for the first time on camera.
And it's like, wait, people need to know what has been going on. They need to know the truth.
It just feels like a kind of purgatory.
Now, her wait is over.
Mr. Jury, if you agreed upon a verdict, yes, on murder in the second degree, what say you? Is the defendant are guilty or not guilty? Not guilty. 002. What say you? Is the defendant are not guilty or guilty? Not guilty. Operating under the influence of liquor by operating a motor vehicle with a blood alcohol level of 0.08 or greater. So say you all?
Yeah, guilty.
Leaving the scene after accident resulting in death. Defendant not guilty or guilty? Not guilty.
And a stunning conclusion to the Karen Reed murder retrial, one of the most divisive cases in Massachusetts history.
Is no one has fought harder for justice for John O'Keefe than I have and my team.
A story unlike one I've ever seen that has many layers to it.
You've got an alleged conspiracy between an entire group of people. You've got forensic evidence. You've got intoxication. You have a hero police officer. John O'Keefe was raising 2 kids after his sister and her husband died. You have all the elements here for great public interest.
Prosecution, they say Karen Reed killed John O'Keefe.
Get drunk, she hit him, she left him to die. It's that simple.
The defense, they say Karen Reed is innocent.
There was no collision. She's the victim of a botched and biased and corrupted investigation that was never about the truth, folks.
Every single detail dissected. And at the center of it all, John O'Keefe. 2 trials, the first ending in a mistrial.
Come at me.
Tonight, you've heard about it for years, but now the whole story, the facts, the theories, And the verdict. It all begins in the middle of a record-breaking nor'easter.
Officer John O'Keefe is found dead out.
Diagnosed with cancer.
Johnny and Kristen were very, very close. That changed Johnny.
He was unbelievable, making sure that the kids were taken care of.
It's just a little over 5 months from the time that it was diagnosed till Kristen passed.
That was a huge loss. When she passed, he lost a part of himself.
And almost unbelievably, Steve passed away almost exactly 2 months after Kristen did.
In a very short amount of time, John loses his sister, his brother-in-law. He takes in their kids. How was he able to handle all of this?
He had a big support system.
And emotionally, how did he do it?
I guess he just knew he had to.
Johnny's niece was 6 and Johnny's nephew was 3. It wasn't even a question. Johnny was going to step in and raise those kids.
Karen Reed's story begins 35 miles south of Boston in the town of Mansfield. Karen, before all of this happened, tell me what life was like for you.
Routine. I took the morning train, literally, and just had a predictable, easy, fortunate life.
What did you do for a living?
I was in finance and asset management, what I always wanted to do. And then at night, I taught college juniors introduction to capital markets, investing.
What happens next is at the crux of this case against Karen Reed. She says they headed to the Alberts home, getting slightly lost along the way, and Jennifer McCabe gets on the phone and gives John directions. When they arrive, Karen says John said he'd go in and check to make sure that the others had actually come over.
I pull at the foot of the driveway, it's snowing, John has no coat on, it's windy, so I drop him off, he goes up the driveway and approaches the side door. And as I see him approach the door, I look down at my phone and I just start browsing through, missed text messages and a couple emails. And I probably waited about a full minute and I look back at the door. So after about 3 minutes, I said, "Are you kidding me, John?"
She says she was having stomach issues and was annoyed that John didn't check back in with her, so she decides just to go back to John's house. Now, phone records indicate that over the next 5.5 hours, Karen calls or texts John 52 times, leaving 8 voicemails.
Now it's approaching 5 a.m. I called a few of his buddies, their wives. I knew something was wrong.
One of Karen's first calls is to Jennifer McCabe. Now, she's part of the group that had gone on to Brian Albert's house on Fairview Road.
They said, "Jen, John didn't come home."
The Massachusetts State Police come in. In this case, the state police completely take over the case because the Canton Police Department doesn't want even the appearance of a conflict of interest. The lead investigator will be Trooper Michael Proctor, whose misconduct will become part of the firestorm at the very center of this trial. This is the very first time that Proctor is speaking publicly in an interview about this case. He tells me about those moments when he and his colleague, Sergeant Yuri Buchanan, first head to the Canton Police Department. Does it change the nature of the investigation when you know that the deceased is a cop?
No, nor should it. There's a little more emotion involved.
That afternoon, Proctor and Buchanan interview Brian Albert, who told them John never came inside his house. And Proctor interviews Jennifer McCabe, who told him she had been on the phone trying to navigate John to the house, but she also says he never came in. Proctor also says Jen McCabe told him that when Karen found John's body, she said, "Could I have hit him?" Proctor and Buchanan head to the hospital now to see John's body. Proctor says at the hospital they realize O'Keefe had been found wearing only one shoe.
And the reason that became important, or was important at the time, during my training and experience, I've been to pedestrian strikes where both shoes are right at the point of impact.
So the body gets hit, but the shoes get left at the point of impact.
I've seen them where people get ripped completely out of their clothing, and their clothes are at the point of impact.
Trooper Proctor and Sergeant Buchanan now proceed to interview Karen at her parents' home. Her Lexus SUV is parked in the driveway, and they notice damage to the right rear taillight. In their official police report, they describe it as shattered.
It's a large housing unit, so a significant chunk is missing.
But it's not just John O'Keefe's friends and acquaintances inside that house that night that the defense is accusing of participating in this cover-up. They also set their sights on Massachusetts State Police Trooper Michael Proctor, the lead investigator in the case. The defense claims that Proctor, a lifelong resident of Canton, is close with the families inside that house that night, the Alberts and the McCabe's, and therefore he's biased and prejudiced in their favor. These are claims the state completely rejects. Had you ever heard of Brian and Nicole Albert? Did that ring a bell?
So I heard of Brian Albert. Never met him until I interviewed him.
Now, Proctor tells me he did know Brian Albert's brother, Chris, and wife, Julie, who'd been at the Waterfall Bar. But you knew Julie and Chris Albert?
Yes, through a distant relationship with my sister.
Did you know Jen McCabe?
No.
And McCabe's? No.
No, never met the McCabe's before, prior to this investigation.
Did you ever think at any point that you should recuse yourself from this case?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Wasn't too close to home, both figuratively and literally?
No, no. It wasn't a concern of mine. It wasn't a concern of DA Michael Morrissey. It wasn't a concern of my supervisors. You know, I didn't know these people. There was loose connections with Julie and Chris.
The defense is questioning the physical evidence found at the scene at this point. Like, why wasn't Karen's taillight found at the scene right away? And the fact that there were even additional pieces of evidence found days, even weeks later? Because in pretrial hearings, they insinuate that Karen Reed's taillight fragments may have been planted there. And that cover-up theory is a recurring theme throughout the pretrial hearings for the defense, and the state says that's absolutely baseless. Did you plant evidence?
Absolutely not. And I'm laughing because it's such a ridiculous accusation. It's something I would never do. I've never done.
You know, most people would.
And there's no evidence of it.
We're talking about people in your community, your neighbors, who believe it. This is not strangers. This is people in Canton. Why do you think that is?
That's just the loud minority. The silent majority we've had an overwhelming amount of support. They're just not out there tweeting.
The prosecution strongly denies allegations of a cover-up, allegations of planting or mishandling evidence, and allegations that Michael Proctor has close ties to any of the witnesses in the case. Very early on, Alan Jackson told me that he could not understand why it was that every time that you went back to the scene, new evidence would materialize. He found that very suspicious.
Maybe you didn't read the weather report I provided in my reports.
Which indicated?
Over the next week to 2 weeks, temperatures range from 30 to 60 degrees with heavy rain. The snow melts at a rapid pace, and the more snow that melted, the more evidence unearthed itself.
Stage. Is it damning evidence of a crime, or is it evidence of a conspiracy?
Karen's defense team rejects the prosecution's theory that her taillight was damaged in a collision involving John. They show ring video of Karen backing out of John's driveway around 5 a.m. and a moment when they say her car appears to bump John's parked vehicle. That's how they allege her taillight was damaged. The prosecution calls investigators who say no taillight was found in John's driveway later that day.
But the moment at that first trial that would forever change the case is when Michael Proctor takes the stand.
Trooper Michael Proctor, P-R-O-C-T-O-R.
In a dramatic turn, there's a separate investigation going on that may impact this trial.
There is a federal investigation surrounding this case, and there's a lot of mystery about this. The exact target of this investigation has never been disclosed, and it hasn't resulted in any charges. But as a part of the investigation, the feds subpoena Michael Proctor's personal cell phone data.
They gave all that information to the prosecution and to Karen Reed and her defense team.
On the stand, Michael Proctor reads texts that he wrote to both friends and colleagues from his personal cell phone while investigating John.
By Proctor was clear.
Trooper Proctor, you don't get to pick a suspect and then try to find evidence to support your choice, right?
Correct.
But in this case, it's exactly what you did, isn't it?
Absolutely not.
After 8 weeks of testimony, the jury cannot come to a decision, and the case ultimately ends in a mistrial.
So at this point, as we sit now after the mistrial, we are sitting at halftime.
and we have got a second half to let play out.
Far from the closure anyone involved in this case had hoped for. Now, a new, even more explosive chapter is about to begin.
This is bizarro world.
I am put on the stand in a murder trial. I don't know why I'm here. I have no connection to this case.
These are not my words. I'm not really comfortable reading these. Do I have to say these words out loud?
I've never seen anything like it.
This case carries a malignancy, and that cancer has a name. His name is Michael Proctor.
The defense moves vigorously for a mistrial with prejudice.
This is the retrial of the century.
The defendant are found guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
I could not be standing here without these amazing supporters.
Tonight, a verdict in the Karen Reed, John O'Keefe murder trial.
We're talking about the retrial of the century.
What could be more egregious? What could be more misleading?
I think that she hit him. I think that she knew she hit him.
John O'Keefe was murdered, no question. He died at the hands of another person. This wasn't Karen Reed.
What happened with the state's people inside the court?
The digital evidence is the centerpiece of the prosecution's case.
Versus the people outside. All new interviews, the embattled trooper speaking out for the first time.
They don't care what the evidence is. They are just all in on this theory that Karen Reed was framed.
No one has fought harder for justice for John O'Keefe than I have.
So this is the beginning of the second trial. Right now you can see Karen Reed in the back.
This retrial, more people watching, more people interested, and the opinions, oh my goodness.
In Massachusetts, defendant Karen Reed back for round 2.
She's accused of running down her boyfriend in her SUV, a Boston police officer.
We're loaded for bear, ready to get the show on the road.
9 months after a deadlocked jury and mistrial, Karen Reed is being tried again on all 3 original charges, including that second-degree murder charge.
Karen, you feel more confident in this trial than the last one?
I'm always confident in my team.
Commonwealth versus Karen Reed.
Whenever you have a retrial, there are going to be changes. It doesn't make any sense to use the same strategy as the first trial because it's clear the jury didn't buy parts of your story.
So it's now time for the opening statements. Mr. Brennan.
Some of the storytellers will also change. Original lead prosecutor Adam Lally is out, and Hank Brennan is in.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Brennan once defended mobster Whitey Bulger, so he is no stranger to a high-profile case.
Hank Brennan understands what the defense is trying to do, understands what the defense wants the prosecution to do.
I simply ask you to follow the evidence, follow the science.
The prosecution's story this time is more focused, more vivid.
Put her foot on the gas pedal and began to press, not 25%, not 50%, up to 75% acceleration.
In opening statements, both sides promise something new.
A cell phone is an amazing piece of technology.
For the prosecution, the new comes in the form of digital evidence.
And there'll be some remarkable data that you will use in this case to find the truth.
Hank Brennan wants this jury focused on the evidence coming from John O'Keefe's phone, the evidence coming from Karen Reed's SUV, evidence that he says does not have bias.
If digital forensics does not connect with the jury, I don't see how the prosecution can win.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
In their opening statements, the defense takes a scientific approach.
Ladies and gentlemen, the scientific evidence and the medical evidence will establish that John O'Keefe had to be injured somewhere else, somewhere warmer, and his body had to have been moved out into the cold.
Understanding exactly what happened that night, to me, is a very complicated question.
And the defense never misses an opportunity to mention the name Michael Proctor, the lead investigator on this case.
This case carries a malignancy, a cancer that cannot be cut out, a cancer that cannot be cured. And that cancer has a name. And his name is Michael Proctor.
It is not hard to conclude that Michael Proctor's words provided the jury with reasonable doubt in the first trial.
And it doesn't take the prosecution very long to remind the jury of 3 words.
She said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
I said, I hit him. It was preceded by a did and proceeded by a question mark. So did I say the 3 words, I hit him? Yes. Did I hit him?
So you're saying that the entire time it was at a question mark?
Yes.
It's like that my cousin Vinny moment. I shot the clerk versus I shot the clerk. So I'm wondering if this jury will have that same interpretation.
And the prosecution adds something that was lacking in the first trial.
Commonwealth calls Peggy O'Keefe.
Emotion. Peggy O'Keefe testifying about the phone call that every mother dreads.
Yeah, she said John was found in a snowbank. And I didn't understand, which I said, what do you mean found in a snowbank? She said, they found him in the snow. They don't know what happened.
She was a very powerful witness, not just in what she said, but how she said it. It really makes the jury understand that, you know, a man, a real person is gone.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
I'll call Ian Whiffen.
Okay.
Ian Whiffen is a digital forensics examiner, and he analyzed the contents of John O'Keefe's phone for the prosecution. And he was able to track the movement of the phone as it left the bar and then drove to Fairview Road.
Do you have an opinion where John O'Keefe's cell phone was?
My opinion is that the device never moved far away from the flagpole.
It tells a story of a man who's in a car, a man who steps out of a car, and a man who never goes inside.
According to Whiffen, the circles on this map indicate O'Keefe's general location on the property. Based on his cell phone data, the smaller the circle, the more accurate the information. But defense attorney Robert Alessi was focused on the larger circles.
The phone of John O'Keefe could be anywhere within the largest white circle, correct?
Correct.
And therefore, the phone could be in the house, correct?
Based on the low accuracy information, yes.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
I came into this case, I thought it was black and white. You know, digital evidence is what it is. But what we are learning through this case is that it's a matter of interpretation.
With the court's permission, could I begin with clip 7?
Yes. Maybe more than a few sips at the waterfall.
And 4 drinks you felt fine to drive?
Yep.
Numerous clips of Reed's televised interviews have been played by the prosecution throughout the trial.
And I don't care what your viewpoint is of Karen Reed, when you listen to them and you watch these clips, there is no way you can tell me they make her look good.
My name is Yuri Buchanan.
Yuri Buchanan was former Trooper Michael Proctor's supervisor. The prosecution needs him to minimize Proctor's involvement in the case.
In the cases where you're assigned, do you investigate the case alone?
Never. It's always a team effort.
Buchanan did everything he could to downplay Proctor. Like, oh, Trooper who? Well, he's one of many here, and that's just not true.
At the same time, Buchanan, who was disciplined after it was revealed he was in the group chat where Proctor was sending inappropriate text messages, must also defend the work of Proctor.
Do you think this case was handled with honor and integrity by Michael Proctor, Sergeant?
The investigation was handled with integrity by Michael Proctor.
The Commonwealth highlights the movement of Reed's vehicle while in front of the Fairview home. Their expert reviewed the onboard computer system of the Lexus, which tracks the SUV's motion.
So again, the initial forward motion is 34 feet, and then backing up an additional 53 feet.
And finally, regarding this part of your analysis, do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty as to whether the defendant's Lexus was decelerating, accelerating, or remaining the same?
It was accelerating at 74% throttle.
Next, Dr. Judson Welcher provides something the prosecution did not have at the first trial: video. The accident reconstruction he puts together is a series of slides and videos which he claims explain how an impact could have occurred.
Let's have the car drive into me. I did this at very low speeds. This is from a camera that we have pointing down at it. But even a 2-mile-an-hour impact redirects me back and causes me to rotate and take a step.
Not every judge would allow this type of evidence. So that's a win for the prosecution to actually get these videos in front of the jury.
And with a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, that is what happened.
This is a real expert. And the question now is his opinion versus the opinion of the experts for the defense. Who will the jury trust?
But if the defendant is worried, she's not showing it.
How would you sum up the prosecution's case?
One word: unjust.
The prosecution rests without ever calling Michael Proctor to the stand. And while the jury will not get to hear from him, you will. He's sitting down exclusively with 2020.
The murder mystery just outside of Boston sparking some explosive accusations against law enforcement.
Do you think Proctor will testify, Karen?
I don't believe so.
Can't get any worse.
The lead investigator on this case, Michael Proctor, did not take the stand this time around. His highly offensive text messages about Karen Reed, which were obtained from his personal cell phone during a federal investigation, they rocked that first trial.
She's a whack job. Yes, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No ass. No nude so far. She's gross.
During the retrial, the defense once again accuses him of running a biased investigation.
You'll learn there's not a single part of this case, folks, not a single part, that he didn't touch, that he didn't direct, that he didn't orchestrate personally. Michael Proctor went far beyond just insulting Karen Reed. He dehumanized this woman.
And while the prosecution condemns Proctor's text messages, they stand firmly by the investigation.
There's not one piece of evidence, not one, that we can look at and say, this was tampered with. This was planted. This was distorted.
Within hours of that first trial ending, Michael Proctor was relieved of duty by the Massachusetts State Police. He was later fired. He sat down for an exclusive interview with us and addressed those text messages, some of which were sent to personal contacts outside of law enforcement.
Who are you writing to?
My good buddies that I've been friends with since first grade. Canton hasn't had a homicide in about 20 years. So they're naturally interested. Just regrettable messages. But in all the content and the messages, what you don't see is a conspiracy.
What do you see?
I see someone who's caught up in the moment of investigating, a fellow police officer and just saying inappropriate things.
Can you see why people called you sexist and misogynist?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I could 100% understand why.
As those text messages are entered into evidence, prosecutors begin to address the defense's claims of bias, and they ask Proctor about the integrity of his investigation when he takes the stand in the first trial.
What, if any, impact did that have as far as your investigation was concerned?
That you sent about Karen Reed is that you said hopefully she kills herself. You texted this to your sister.
Right.
That seems incredibly unprofessional for a homicide investigator speaking about his suspect.
It was made in jest. It's a figure of speech. Hopefully she kills herself like that. Not literally.
That's a figure of speech?
Yes.
Do you use that commonly?
Yes. Not commonly, but it's a figure of speech I made in jest. It wasn't literally, I hope she kills herself.
At what point did you develop such strong negative feelings about Karen Reed that you would say things like, hopefully she kills herself, or calling her the C word?
Those feelings developed as the case went on.
I mean, can you see how people might think, he was caught in this instance speaking about a suspect in this way. Maybe it's happened in other cases as well.
I 100% understand why people would think that. But when you have, a fellow police officer around my age, 2 kids of his own, it generates an emotion. And I expressed those emotions in a negative way, which I shouldn't have. I shouldn't even, been texting my friends anything.
And some of his texts were with colleagues, including 2 superiors.
When we first got into her phone, the number one thing I wanted to review was location data, text messages. And when we got into the phone, I texted the guys at work, our work chain, that joke. No nude so far, guys.
You're talking about completely inappropriate text messages that show a complete bias in the investigation. And Proctor is sending these to his supervisors. And he's not being admonished for it. Like, what's going on here? Is this business as usual? Is this being adopted and accepted by other members of law enforcement?
Does the bias of one investigator or the exhibited bias, does that compromise an entire investigation? No. But could that bias have led to additional mistakes? That's the jury's job to figure out.
Can you see how the impropriety of the text messages opens the door for the defense's allegations that there was some sort of conspiracy and cover-up here?
There's no evidence because it didn't happen. I spent 2 days on the stand. That was Alan Jackson's opportunity to bring that up and question me on it.
Specifically asking you whether you planted evidence.
Yeah, not one question.
Boston has a history of police and law enforcement corruption.
Yeah, that I agree with. Not in this case. Didn't happen here.
So why would it be so unreasonable for people to think, well, it's happened elsewhere and recently in Boston? Why couldn't it happen in Canton?
They believe that the state police, multiple units within the state police, the Canton Police Department, about a dozen civilians are all in this conspiracy to frame a woman we don't know. And over the last 2.5, 3 years, not one person has said, wait a minute, I'm not going down for this. Here's what really happened.
You saw the lengths to which some police officers will go to protect their own at the expense of the rest of us, at the expense of Karen Reed.
Is there any part of the actual investigation that you would do over?
Because it's blowing up into this crazy so-called conspiracy, maybe I could have avoided it by, looking at other people's cars just to say we did it. There's some witnesses maybe we could have interviewed a little sooner. But overall, myself and every detective in that office worked this case like we always do. And so I wouldn't change anything.
Nothing?
No.
But things are about to change for Michael Proctor.
I just remember dropping on my knees and laying on my lawn, like crying.
It's about supporting John's family and getting justice for John.
Michael Proctor.
Michael Proctor. Michael Proctor.
Although Michael Proctor's name continues to reverberate throughout Karen Reed's retrial, Proctor himself retreats from the public eye.
Trooper Michael Proctor is relieved of duty effective immediately.
Suspended without pay.
Proctor is suspended without pay pending an internal investigation into his conduct.
I just remember dropping on my knees and laying on my lawn, like crying. I couldn't even talk. I was complete hysterics. And I just remember my mother being like, what? And I kind of gathered myself and I'm like, they relieved me of duty.
What was it like handing over your badge, your gun, your cruiser?
What really got me was my union rep. He had to come over to my house and pick up all my uniforms. And the one time I broke down was putting my Class A uniform. You go through a 6-month academy and you're very proud to put that uniform on. Yeah, that was tough.
In March, the State Police Trial Board dishonorably discharges Michael Proctor on 2 charges, including unsatisfactory performance related to state police conduct standards.
I don't know any trooper that's been punished for personal text messages on their personal phone, let alone fired.
He's appealing the trial board's decision. A supervisor on one of Proctor's text chains is also disciplined for failure to counsel a subordinate during an investigation, and he loses 5 vacation days. The Massachusetts State Police say their disciplinary action is determined on a case-by-case basis.
People in every job do and say stupid things. They're human beings, they make mistakes, but we have to expect a higher degree of professionalism from a lead investigator in a case like this.
With the second trial underway, public fascination accelerates and the trial takes on a life of its own.
The public interest has actually grown for the retrial. First time around, people heard about the case. Second time around, people know the case.
Social media is having a field day.
Karen Reed.
I am just obsessed with this case.
Birthday shout-outs to Karen. There are dinner giveaways for Karen Reed's Defense Fund.
So I'm looking very forward to meeting some of you in person, to sharing a nice, intimate dinner with you.
And on the free Karen Reed page, it's almost like a reality show with chef Alan Jackson behind the scenes serving up meals for Reed and her team.
It's a reflection of the modern age.
For Karen Reed, there's supporters and, the court of public opinion support.
But when you look at it from the perspective of the victim's family, especially those two children that were relying on him for their care, the idea that there are raffles and giveaways,
it's arguably pretty grotesque.
She's the happiest murder defendant in America.
There's a long way to go with this second trial. How does that feel?
We feel like we have a simplified strategy that the evidence will show exactly what happened. I think that she hit him. I think that she knew she hit him. I don't think that she knew how badly he was injured. My biggest concern about the second trial is how do you field a objective 12-person panel type of media exposure that's already been given?
I feel great.
Are we going to be able to get a fair shake?
And there are these billboards urging locals to remember John, which can be seen across the Boston area.
Johnny's friends and family, they got together and they wanted to remember Johnny. The goal was to ensure that the public sentiment, that folks understood what void was created from Johnny's murder. It's not just about the defendant. It should be about the victim.
Amidst everything in the courtroom, John O'Keefe's friends and family remember the guy who loves sports and the uncle who had silly treasured moments at home with the kids. And while Reed's team prepares to present the defense in the second trial, John O'Keefe's family and friends are in court every day, only feet away from Reed.
I think the hardest part is having to see John's mother sit that close to Karen and watching her laugh, giggle, smirk.
There's an undertone of anxiety, but I think that there's a general presence of hope that we're going to find justice.
And when we come back, Karen Reed's team fights back.
There was not a single eyewitness to a collision. There was not even a single eyewitness to a backing event.
Neither side wants to walk out of that courtroom losing.
I'm anxious to see how they're going to start. Anxious, yes.
Emotions run the gamut as O'Keefe supporters and Karen Reed's legal team enter the courthouse in Dedham.
How you feeling today,
Karen? Any thoughts on Wilson today? I feel great.
Go get him!
It's day 24 of the retrial, and it's the defense's turn to present their case. Alan Jackson begins by asking for a mistrial.
There was no eyewitness presented. There was no video evidence, no audio evidence, no evidence in the form of physical evidence at the scene by searches that were done by officers on the morning of January 29th, 2022.
999 times out of 1,000, the defense loses that motion. But what I like to listen to is the arguments that are made, because it sort of gives you a little bit of a preview of what the closing arguments will be.
They did not prove that there was actually a collision.
Jackson says the state experts may have proven the SUV went backwards, but they have not proven that it was a collision connected to that backing maneuver.
But Judge Beverly Cannoni isn't buying it.
The motion is denied as to all three of them.
You can't blame the defense for trying, but it would be highly unusual for a judge to grant any mistrial requests at this point in the trial.
The defense calls a longtime friend of Michael Proctor to the stand, and he confirms he was on a text chain with Proctor and other friends when the former trooper sent his now infamous texts.
Good morning, sir. Would you please state your name?
Jonathan Diamandis.
Those text messages were entered into evidence, and the defense quickly wrapped up its questioning.
I have no further questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The prosecution says not so fast. They actually want the text read aloud, and then an objection is raised in the courtroom from the witness.
Could you read all of them, please?
These are not my words. I'm not really comfortable reading these. Do I have to say these words out loud?
A compromise is reached.
I don't want you to say words that are not yours. I'll say the words, and I'm going to ask you if I'm reading accurately. Is that better?
Yes.
When prosecutors put bad evidence in front of a jury, they're just getting in front of it. They want to be the ones to say, okay, we're going to put this in front of the jury. We're not hiding it from you.
Next up is former Canton police officer Kelly Dever, who wins the award for Most Hostile Witness.
Miss Dever, do you want to be here tonight?
I have no relation to this case, so...
I didn't ask you that. I asked you if you want to be here tonight.
Objection. This isn't direct.
So it's your witness.
I understand.
She can... No comments, just questions. Not, I understand that.
Dever once made statements to federal authorities about the Reed case, but later recanted, claiming it was false memory.
Sometimes you have to call a witness who you don't get along with, who you know is not for your side, because they have information that's going to help you. Prosecutors aren't going to call her, so Alan Jackson and the defense had to call her.
Do you want to be here today now?
I am put on the stand in a murder trial. I don't know why I'm here. I have no connection to this case.
You have no idea why you're here?
You've never talked to me. Nobody on the fence seems to talk to me since prior to the first trial. So I don't have any idea why I'm here.
No clue whatsoever, as you sit here, why you might have been called to the stand.
No.
Whatever her value was to the defense was lost in the sea of hostility by the witness.
That's all I have.
The defense would later call forensic expert Dr. Marie Russell to the stand.
All right, Mr. Alessi, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
And she testifies about the marks on John O'Keefe's arm.
Can you determine that those are from a dog?
I believe they are, yes.
Her credentials are real. I mean, she's done the work. She has treated people who have been bitten by dogs through the years, but she's not an experienced expert witness. So when you see her on the stand, she's not the strongest of experts because she's not used to doing this.
There is no recognized standard anywhere for methodology on how to identify a dog bite wound, is there?
There is no published standard from an organization that I am aware of.
When you considered...
Brennan asked the doctor if her opinion on the case changed after she watched Reed's televised interviews. The doctor said no.
Many people suffer from what's called an acute grief reaction. It's very common. And they do things that seem to be irrational. They ramble. They act bizarrely.
Does this happen moments after a stressful event?
Oh, yes.
Does it happen months later when you go on 20/20 or Nightline?
I've never seen that situation.
Yeah, no.
It gave him an opportunity to point out to the jury that they've been watching these interviews inside the courtroom, these clips. And these clips are months and months after the death of John O'Keefe. So I think in that moment, Hank Brennan did a nice job of scoring some points and bringing some credibility to his side and perhaps undermining the credibility of Dr. Russell.
Next up for the defense is Brian Lucky Loughran. Now, he's the snowplow operator who came down Fairview Road during the storm, and his value to the defense is not what he saw, it's what he didn't see.
How much of the front lawn could you see?
I could see all the way to the front door.
What was on the ground on the Alberts lawn at that point in the area of the flagpole?
Nothing.
Did you see a 6'1", 216-pound man lying on that lawn?
No.
The prosecution attributes that to Lucky simply being too busy dealing with the task at hand.
When you plowed that night, did you have any reason to look for somebody who was lying on the side of a yard?
No.
Then the defense's most important witness. Andrew Rentschler is a biomechanical engineer, and his company conducted a series of tests. And based on these tests, Rentschler offers a different opinion as to whether John O'Keefe was even struck by a vehicle at all.
I did, yes. And what is that opinion?
My opinion is that the evidence is inconsistent with Mr. O'Keefe being struck on the right arm by the SUV.
things get testy during cross-examination.
When you looked at all the tests you did, the plastic broke differently in each and every case, every experiment, didn't it?
Sure, it's broken like that, and I've never seen a case where you get these types of abrasions.
Well, I didn't ask you that. Is that funny?
No, it's not funny.
Okay.
So I'm going to strike the comment. Next question.
Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan also suggests that Rentschler is cozy with the defense.
Did you have any bias or any?
Any bias?
Bias, yes.
What do you mean? Did I have any bias?
Well, after you testified, where did you go?
Well, I was waiting for my ride, and to get back to the airport, they had to take other people, and so they were having a lunch afterwards, and they said, come have a sandwich, and then your ride will take you to the airport. So I went, and I had a ham sandwich.
How long were you at the table eating your ham sandwich?
I honestly don't know. 10 minutes? How long does it take you to eat a ham sandwich? 10 minutes?
After an exhaustive 33-day trial, both sides deliver their closing arguments.
Find Karen Reed not guilty, not guilty, not guilty.
She was drunk, she hit him, and she left him to die.
All rise for the court, please.
So we'll start with the defendant's closing. Mr. Jackson?
There was no collision. There was no collision. There was no collision. This case was corrupted from the start by biases, conflicts, and personal loyalties. At the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, can you trust the Commonwealth's case? They failed to provide you with a truthful representation. They failed to prove the essence of their case, that John was even hit by a car to begin with. Find Karen Reed not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. Thank you.
On January 29, 2022, John O'Keefe had just been hit by Karen Reed. Then he lay on the ground, dying, and he needed help. She made a choice. She didn't call 911. She didn't run to his aid. She made a decision. She drove away. She left him alone to die. He is not an it. John O'Keefe is not a body. John O'Keefe is not a buffalo on a prairie. John O'Keefe was a person, and he was murdered by Karen Reed.
Talk about the closings. How do you feel they went? I mean, for your side?
I don't think mine could have gone better.
And what do you want to
That's
say?
all I'll say.
This has been a long 3 years, around 3 years. So we're all kind of on pins and needles, just waiting.
As the jury continues to deliberate, the crowds outside the courthouse continue to grow.
And you can see the Karen Reed supporters wearing their pink outside the courthouse. Right now, there are Karen Reed supporters pouring into the street. They're getting closer. We are inches away from a verdict.
Mr. Foreman, members of the jury, have you agreed upon a verdict?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman, on murder in the second degree, what say you? Is the defendant at the bar guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
002, what say you? Is the defendant at the bar not guilty or guilty?
Not guilty.
Specifically number 5, operating under the influence of liquor. So say you, Mr. Foreman?
Guilty.
Leaving the scene after accident resulting in death. Is the defendant not guilty or guilty?
Not guilty.
So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you all?
I couldn't actually hear the verdict because there was so much noise. And when the first part of that verdict was read, there was absolute jubilation.
As that not guilty verdict comes in, a member of Karen Reed's defense team is in tears and you can see Karen's hands trembling.
Right now, you can hear the cheers of the crowd right there. Alan Jackson, Karen Reed in that light blue suit emerging from the courthouse. They're waving to the crowd. They're making that hand gesture and sign language of love to their supporters. You can see that confetti exploding right there. Karen Reed's legal team and Karen Reed in the powder blue suit just to the right. We're going to hear Karen right now.
I just want to say two things. Number one is I could not be standing here without these amazing supporters who have supported me and my team financially and, more importantly, emotionally for almost 4 years. And the second thing I want to say is no one has fought harder for justice for John O'Keefe than I have. Thank you to my supporters. They pulled us through on their backs. Thank you.
And not seen in the swirl of confetti and this crowd here is the family and friends of Officer John O'Keefe. Throughout this over 3-year-long ordeal, they have remained stoic and reserved and dignified. And tonight they have to somehow cope with both losing their son and this trial. Karen Reed may not have been convicted of murder, but she is not out of the legal woods yet. This has been the trial of a decade, over 3 years in the making. But the saga is not over for Karen Reed. Karen Reed's sentence for OUI, basically driving under the influence, earned her a year of probation, and the family of John O'Keefe has already filed a wrongful death suit against her after that mistrial in 2024.
Despite the heartbreak of this verdict for the O'Keefe family, they continue to try to find ways to honor John in their everyday lives.
John's badge number is 2490. So
The numerical symbol of finding justice for him.
Justice for JJ! Justice for JJ!
The last picture you took together, was that at opening day?
Yeah, it was an opening day shot at Lansdowne. It's one of the few pictures we took. We didn't take a whole lot of pictures.
But you're both beaming in that picture.
Yeah, we had a good day. We had a very good day.
And this year, you went with John's nephew.
I did. We've tried to keep that tradition alive. We've taken Johnny's nephew to 3 of the last 4 opening days.
What has that been like?
Frankly, it's been genuinely enjoyable. He happens to be a great kid. I've known him since he was really little. My relationship with Johnny's nephew is very important to me. To me, it's just about maintaining that connection and maintaining tradition, and tradition was important for Johnny. Every year we go to Johnny's gravesite. So Johnny's brother, Johnny's closest friends from the Boston Police Force. It's a way for family and friends to get together and honor him as a community.
people keep asking, what legacy he left behind, and I would say a legacy of honor. He was an honorable man. He was a good man. Can't really say enough good things about John.
I should miss him.
David, this is the end of a very long, emotional journey for so many in that community and beyond.
No question about that. For Karen Reed tonight, relief. And for John O'Keefe's family, major disappointment. We should point out, though, that the civil suit against her is still ongoing. That's our program for tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm David Muir.
And I'm Deborah Roberts. From all of us here at 2020 and ABC News, good night.
दूरों दूरों जे देख तो
झीले तो ऊंची कंध क्यों सजना चाड़ छोड़ी राखी इश्क बागी चढ़े करूं खाना फजल पट पे आरगी बाड़ छोड़ी ते मामिकरा कोरागा सिल आ लगी ठंड बर्फानियां चोटियां ना शेर लऊब छोड़या बेन मेरा बदल छोड़ेगा किस्मत खोटियां ना ते छड़ फटावर मरच बरूर गमले लायो लूण छोड़ा गो बोटियां ना फजल शेरागा सुने गो बेन केड़ो बंडे कूण मुसीबता पोटियां ना ते फगण फुलागी मुड़ी बहार सोनी फुल शरागा चौण मां बाग फुल्ला शेर शेर खुशबू चारे कोट मेरा दर्द मंद दिल का दाग दाग फुल्ला ते गाया दर्द का गीत पखेरुआ ने मेरा दुख सजरा बाग बाग फुल्ला फजल इश्क ने लाई उन लो सारे अखे लऊगा बाण चराग फुल्ला दूरों दूरों जे देख तो झीले तो ऊंची कंध क्यों सजना चाड़ छोड़ी राखी इश्क बागी चढ़े करूं खाना फजल पट पे आरगी बाड़ छोड़ी ते मामिकरा कोरागा सिल आ लगी ठंड बर्फानियां चोटियां ना शेर लऊब छोड़या बेन मेरा बदल छोड़ेगा किस्मत खोटियां ना ते छड़ फटावर मरच बरूर गमले लायो लूण छोड़ा गो बोटियां ना فزن شرا